All right, we will start over again. Hello, everyone. This is January 14th, 2026. We are having our special teaching, learning, equity, and pupil services committee meeting tonight. And I'm excited to see everybody here. So that's the call to order, right? We're good to go. So we need a roll call.
Carol Fox,
Here.
Megan Miller, present, and Joanne Rowe.
Here.
All members are present.
And can we get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so that brings us to the purpose of our meeting tonight. So I was thinking about our board and how unique it is that we have in this meeting right here decades of experience in education. We have an administrator, we have a reading specialist, we have two people that have been classroom teachers. And so that's pretty special, I think. And you did it all. But so as teachers, we're collaborative and we come up with ideas together. And I think many minds together come up with better ideas. So we just, our community and people within the district have asked, what are we planning on doing to help our students regarding our test scores, especially in English language arts. And so we have community members that are willing to help us. And so I know people around the table here have also had ideas that they've had individually. And so I thought it would be nice that we just kind of bring all these ideas together and maybe come up with some things that we could present to our teaching and learning people here at COLAC so that we can come up with ideas to help our students. So that's that. So Carol and Megan, I know you both have like broad ideas that you would like to see us look at. And so is there someone that would like to start?
I'll start with a question.
Okay.
And I do have things to share, but I also want to hear kind of where everybody's at. It's a conversation that's overdue.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I think the board has had a meaningful conversation about like setting like criteria. I mean, that's what you do with a strategic plan. And we've got, to some extent, we've had our board goals, but I mean, there's just been a lot going on these last 2.5 or so years. And I think this is a great time for us to get refocused. And my question before we start anything is any successful, and I hate to say the word, I don't want to say like initiative, just like if we want to be successful in the work that we do, which is educating our children, there has to be a vision, there has to be, accountability pieces and metrics, multiple metrics that are aligned to that vision. And there has to be like a clear sense of, what that desired outcome is and buy-in and all this stuff. So it's like, I really want to kind of start from a place of, and it's reflected in the questions that I shared with Ms. Schultz to pass along to Dr. Anderson in this first up. But I'd like to understand first, what do we currently have in terms of 4K really through 12 literacy intervention, like what already exists, what systems, what resources, staff. I'd like to know where we are already seeing growth, like what pieces of those systems are working over the past, 3 to 5 years or so. I'd like to know what pieces of the system are not, like where are we not seeing growth, in which groups, in which grade, however we can disaggregate it. And I'd like to know what, according to the district, like our own perceived barriers are to being able to overcome those challenges. And I think until we can get a clear sense of like what mechanisms exist and what need to exist, we aren't going to know how to optimally use something like, open literacy. And I have some other ideas as well, but I mean, I think that's the starting conversation, because if we're going to do something, we need to do it purposefully in a way that's sustainable. Right? Mm-hmm. So I guess that's where I kind of want to start.
So if we adopt this initiative, it'll only be at one school. And so this is a broader conversation of what we do for all of our students, because it isn't just one school that is struggling. And so we want to do things that will help the rest of our students too, if we move forward with this. I do know in our district right now, we use American Reading Company for kindergarten through 5th grade. There are, for students that are identified as needing a reading plan, they are assessed every week. And then Tier 2 receive extra instruction from the classroom teacher. Tier 3 is where they bring in UFly, and they work with either an interventionist or the reading specialist or someone else that the building has identified. Hackett School has their online program that they're using this year. And at least one school has a CLC grant that they utilize that too to help some of our students. I don't know anything about middle school and high school.
And I do want to speak to that later, and I just want to clarify. So we are currently using UFly for Tier 3.
Tier 3.
Did you happen to find out, because I didn't, do you happen to know if we are using Hegarty at all with our early childhood or earlier?
3 years ago, it was taken out of all the classrooms.
Mm-hmm. And so that's something, I mean, this is getting in the weeds a bit, but like that's the kind of information that when I take off my reading teacher hat and put on a board hat, we want to make sure that we're using like things that are like evidence-based. And when I say evidence-based, just to be clear, for the purposes of this conversation and any conversations that we have about like open literacy or anything else, like that means that it is like a scientifically like, randomized controlled study, like a scientifically studied third party independent data source, not, company research or anything like that, or not like, oh, I'm the reading teacher and this is my favorite thing. And, we all have those things, but, so I would just like making sure that there was like a rationale. So maybe my ask as a member of the committee that I'd like us to consider it as an ask to the district would be, could we get like an assets and a needs sort of assessment? Like what, some just high level sort of report almost, nothing that anybody should have to spend like a ton of time on, because I mean, with the report card unpacking, I mean, we already know we should have pretty much at our fingertips as a district. Where are we doing well? Where are we seeing growth, and where are we not?
And right? Kindergarten through 2nd grade, we have our AIMS data that we just received again.
Well, and we have, what is the ERLA? So we
the
have
ERLA,
we have ERLA, we have maps for, we have a lot of data sources. So I'd really like to see a summary. Carol, I'm going to lean on you a little bit for the time span. Do you feel like 3 years, 5? Because I want to say 5, but implementation theory system. I mean, like I'm fine anywhere in that range, but I'd like to see trends over time.
Yeah, well, let me take you a whole nother tack.
Yeah.
Because I'm much more interested in this skyrocket stuff.
Oh, the PD.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
To me, the open literacy thing is just a small piece. It should fit right in with what other literacy things that we're doing. It's tutoring. Do we need tutoring? Yes, we do. But some of the things that you're talking about, in terms of evaluating the district and looking at things that are going on in the district, Skyrocket offers that. They're offering it for only one school, but they do, they come in and they do an audit and they do a cultural framework and they do all of these different things. And their focus is on the staff development pieces. It's training the educational leadership business for the principals. The more I look, they have foundational systems, data-driven leadership, looking at equity kinds of things. They have a whole strand here just for special ed. To me, some of this is something more that we as a whole district whole
absolutely
really kind of need.
And Milwaukee Public Schools is one of the places that's using it, correct?
It was some of Milwaukee is using
right.
it. I don't know if the whole public school system is using it, but some of it is using it. This is what the Lincoln Academy has been using. And I did look to see, because one of my questions is how did they land on Skyrocket?
Sure.
And I looked for other kinds of things that might have the same kind or similar kinds of things. And there are a whole bunch of them, right?
Mhm.
There's all kinds of different ones that provide professional training for teachers and administrators, focusing on educational leadership. But and I haven't finished all my research yet, but what I found was that a lot of them, talked a lot about different things, but Skyrocket actually, and there's no independent research that I was able to find on any of them. But, Skyrocket was saying that, their data on their districts is showing that they're improving. One of the things that, to me, seems to be a good fit for this or something like it for the district as a whole is that educational leadership piece and looking at our culture and our framework piece, especially for our elementary schools. We have a ton of new principals. We have a lot of new teachers. We have a lot of, we've reconfigured the elementary schools now twice since I retired 15 years ago, 16 years ago. And those culture pieces.
And here too, we have so many different people here that
Yes.
are the ones that usually
Yes.
train our principals, that
And
train our
it's
staff.
some of those culture pieces for the schools have been, I think, problematic.
Very.
And I fussed the first time when they reconfigured. It's like you need to give the people time to work together as a staff to create culture, to do those things, and they really didn't. And a lot of them had a hard time with two different staffs trying to come together. Right. There was this is the old Royce staff and this is the Hackett staff, and there was that kind of stuff, and then now 10 years later we've redone it again, and we're surprised that our elementary schools in particular are not doing well. And to me, this kind of thing, it just seems like something that might help us immensely just to get our feet back underneath us and look at trying to get some of those pieces together, have our principals, if we could do the whole bucket, have the principals trained together. They're supporting one another. They're helping one another. They've got the same language that they're using for their teachers. We've talked a lot about the coaching model, and I haven't really seen a lot of anything that would say that this coaching model has worked well for us. But this would train coaches in instruction, which then the coaches could learn that too, and then take those instructional pieces and match it with their curriculum pieces. I just, the more I looked at this and the more I looked at some of the things that it offered, I'm like, wow, if we could figure out a way to do it for at least all 6 elementary schools, it would be, I think, very beneficial to our district. And I don't know if, the principals, the Skyrocket is supposed to be coming. Dr. Anderson was going to arrange that to meet with the principals and to discuss that. I don't, but, if we could, and it's a money problem, of course, but there's the Title I money, there's the AGR money, and when you go back to that open literacy piece, it's like, do we need tutoring? Yeah. Do I know how to get tutoring? No, but there's a way to do it, right? And AGR wants that money, the state wants that money spent on licensed teachers. We can't get licensed teachers in the classroom. We can't find licensed teachers to tutor. And we're not using our coaches properly right now because they're in classrooms because we don't have enough teachers. So if we could firm up the cultural framework, if we could firm up the teaching business for all of our teachers, one of the things that one of their focus is on teacher retention, like, yay. So I don't think any of these things would interfere in any way with what we're already doing. They're not, these folks aren't talking about changing your curriculum, right? They're not. They're talking about working within your curriculum and creating high quality teachers. How do you really focus on getting your teachers to do a better job? And they have, the other thing that I was impressed with was they have 3 tiers, right? So that you kind of look at where those teachers are, and you're not training you as an experienced teacher in the same way that you're working with an inexperienced teacher. Those are 2 different things.
Which I can speak for myself personally, as far as coaching in the district. When we switched to the coaching model, I requested coaching every year. I was not part of the group that needed triage, basically. And so I never got coaching. And so my students didn't benefit from having this person in the building that's supposed to help us be better, because I absolutely want to be better every day, every student. And so if we have a system that will help all of our teachers improve and build morale too, because that's another piece that we really need to improve in our district as well. You did have some ideas though for tutoring, didn't you? You had talked about, you said, I don't know, but you have ideas too, outside of,
Well, yes.
if
And
we
then,
look at the rest of our elementary schools, like you're a good think outside the box person. So can you speak to some of those things that you've thought about?
Well, just to I don't think that tutoring necessarily has to be done by a licensed teacher if you structure it correctly, right? We did tutoring as part of the Success for All program, and all of our tutors were paraeducators. They were trained, and they had a specific format that they followed, and we told them which students and which skills, right? So, the training piece is the important piece for all of that. So you don't necessarily have to have licensed teachers, or you could look for former teachers or other things. And then, you were talking about volunteers, and if you can get a warm body that would come in regularly, that's great. I don't know what experience you.
We used to have the RSVP tutors come into the buildings.
Yeah, I don't, but us senior citizens tend to, it's like, I'll be there, but not these 2 weeks in February because I'm gone on vacation. And so that kind of loses its consistency. Whereas if you're actually paying a person to be there and to do that, or it's somebody that you're already paying to be there and you teach them how to do it, then you can say, yes, that's your that's part of your job, right? We had we had an ESL paraeducator, and she tutored part of the day, and we hired another ESL person, and she tutored part of the day, and we had another regular para, and she tutored part of the day. So the biggest problem was finding places for them to tutor.
Right. Yep.
But so just because we work with some of these things doesn't limit us in terms of options for doing other things or adding to it, or figuring out how, if we choose to do this for 3 years, how we might want to change it, and especially if we're doing our own thing beyond what the Hendricks Foundation is encouraging us to do. It's like, we could do it for a couple of years. The other thing we found is as you train and you get teachers to do, when we first started with our particular initiative, we had to have a lot of roots teachers, right? Because we had a lot of kids that didn't know how to read. And the more we worked with it, the less roots teachers we needed, right? And the less tutors we needed, because the kids were getting the skills that we were teaching them as they were going along.
And this is in the Success for All program that you used,
the Success for All
which
program.
is the same one that they used in Steubenville, Ohio. Yes.
Yeah, Steubenville was different and lucky and fortunate, because they really literally had no changes
Mhm.
in their administration, and some of those kinds of things. And they're very stable in terms of their staff and their administration,
Mhm.
which is very unusual. The part of the trouble with sustaining these things is continual changes.
Right.
So, you look like you have something that you want to say, so I don't, so I'm going to shut up for a second, but that exact point, I think is like a really nice kind of dovetail into some things I love to share about, the very successful initiative that I got to be a part of here in Beloit at the high school from about 2012 to 2015. But so I'll just put a pin in that though.
I was just going to reiterate that, as a classroom teacher, every time we change things, it's like a stop, start, and it takes you 3 years to really get comfortable in a curriculum and do it well. I've been teaching UFly. This is my 2nd year doing it. I love it. It's simple. It's one of the easiest parts of my day, but one of the most challenging parts of my students' day. They work so hard during that time, and they understand the importance of it, that this is what's going to help them read and write. Today, I had kindergartners all reading and spelling the word said in a sentence correctly. That's what this program does. And it absolutely is a program that could be done by anyone who's had a small amount of training. Because it's very systematic, because that's reading at the beginning levels is that. So
No, I'm just
Go ahead.
Just saying. No.
yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
The other thing with it, something like this, and I don't know, maybe that was part of their modus operandi. I don't know. But if we want to work on starting something like this and working on expanding it, as we hire a new superintendent and some new people, we're say, this is the direction we're going. And if you don't want to take us this direction, then you need to find another district to work for, because this is where we want to go, because we need to make systemic change in our district, and we need to come up with ways to do that. And we're gonna go this way, and come with us or go away.
Yeah, bingo. So that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. So first of all, Carol, I really appreciated absolutely everything you had to say. I have some in the weeds, some things with Skyrocket or not, whatever. But the crux of your points, I guess, just going back to Skyrocket, 100%, like 100%. I don't know that Skyrocket is the only or best, and it might be amazing and we'll do it and it'll be great, or it might not, that's a different discussion. But I think the valuable things to take away from what you shared is the continuity of I guess, let me go back, different C word. The cohesion and culture in the buildings is God had us be a top priority, and that goes right into staff retention, and it goes right into what you were just talking about, which is the sustainability of successful outcomes, right? It has to come from
the culture of
right.
the building.
And so unfortunately, and then to your point about leadership too, and the merry-go-round of, we're doing this or we're doing that. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. And I mean, I'm not currently a classroom teacher. Most of my career, though, I was. And yeah, forget about it. You lose so much. And when I talk about opportunity cost, sure, we can talk about building spaces and staff and personnel, but there's also an opportunity cost of starting all over again. And it's impossible to quantify that. But in any case, I guess what I want to talk about though with the leadership piece that you both just brought up is people are going to come and go. Is the trend right now. I think superintendents, like Dennis and Turner is rare. Yeah. I mean, superintendents 3 to 5 years. And that's if you're lucky across the state of Wisconsin. I remember, and I haven't looked at the data since 22, but in 2022, I think 25% of Wisconsin school districts turned over a superintendent. And I think that's been kind of the trend since around then. And so if you can't control that, which you can't, what we can control is setting up as a board non-negotiables. We are all going to come and go. the staff who work here, but we're all going to come and go, but what are our non-negotiables? And like, I think that's part of the value of having sort of that, like that vision and that plan. And so again, we've had the benefit of being able to say the school district of Beloit, and this has been lost in, I think, a really harmful narrative. The school district of Beloit set the model for the entire state of Wisconsin for successful literacy. And at the time we called it RTI. And I know that's kind of gone out of style for, MTSS and MLSS. Same alphabet soup stuff. I just said that to somebody earlier today,
Acronyms,
right?
yeah.
All the
We
acronyms
change all
soup,
that all the
right?
time. Yeah.
But, whether you call it RTI, response to intervention, or equitable multi-level systems of support, that's what we were already doing. And for our benefit of just refreshing us, because like, I feel so privileged to have had the institutional experience of participating in that. And I also, just as a side note, spent about an hour on the phone this afternoon with Deb Rossard, who's a retired reading specialist from Beloit. And I said to her sort of in the middle of the conversation, that like my entire career since being in Beloit has really just been like a love letter to what she and Mary Studeman and Lynn Roden, who's passed away, had built, under Tom's leadership over at Beloit. So I guess the reason that I bring that up is we absolutely have this institutional experience and knowledge of how to create a working system that I will tell you, as somebody who taught all of those classes. I taught aligned English, I taught selected literacy, I taught can't even talk tonight anyway, targeted literacy, all of those pieces, the amount of kids, I mean, we cut those kids in, the number of kids that needed intervention, I think was like a half or a third of them in some of those tiers, right? It was outstanding. And it was data driven, and we had the gains, and we had the maps with NWEA. Like we had all of the stuff back there. You'll see on the slide deck that I shared with you earlier. They're talking about WKCE, so you can see how old that is. But in any case, some things don't age out, right? And so, I guess my hope for we're going to vote one way or the other. Thanks so much for protecting our physical well-being here. we're programs and this and that, whatever aside, I mean, I think the main focus, so I'm not saying good or bad about that. I need more time and much more information before I can really land there. But what we know works. And I think that this is a great opportunity because we've lacked the ability, this is the first time we really sat down and talked about it, to direct our administration to say, whatever the next incoming superintendent, whatever, this is the model. Not the specific, in a broad way, because it's up to our administrators and our educators to do the things, right? This is the model that is a non-negotiable. Like we want to have, with multiple metrics, data-driven, equitable literacy intervention, proactive literacy intervention at absolutely every grade level, like period. And here is what worked before. And will it need tweaks? Yeah, we're not talking about the WKCE anymore, right? And I mean, certainly, kids and needs have changed, but it's got to be based on the needs of our kids, and it's got to be part of that system. And I think Beloit was one of the first districts to even do like, oh, yep, we're doing maps 2 times a year. I mean, that we were so ahead of the game on what is just like standard practice now in districts. So again, I guess my desired outcome for like this conversation and in future conversations, and as we look into hiring a superintendent, if we were going to do something like open literacy, I don't want to just know, sure, we can do it at a school in 3rd grade. I understand what those technical details are. I need to see whether it's that or something else or other things. How is this going to sustain a culture of change? And it's funny to talk about change, but we're really just kind of going back to what we were already doing that we were doing well. The reason we stopped doing the stuff that we were doing well, you already said it. How many superintendents ago was 2015?
Many.
I think it takes 2 hands to count on your fingers.
Yeah, we've had a lot of change.
So it is. I feel like it is our responsibility as a board to protect our children and to salvage what is left of an absolutely fabulous system. I'm not talking about programs or whatever, system of practice that we already know works. So I guess that is a desired outcome. And then specifically to the tutoring point, I shouldn't probably name names without people's permission. So I guess I won't. But there's a retired principal and a retired teacher that I worked with back in 2016, 2017 and beyond at the Beloit Public Library when we did the AmeriCorps Playroom Grant. So it was a 3-way partnership between AmeriCorps, the DPI, and the Arrowhead Library System. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that the outcome of this 1-year grant was that Beloit Public Library was the only of all the library systems to sustain the program beyond the life of the grant. We had to rebrand it. We called it ABC Playgroup. It stood for All Beloit Children, and it was entirely, it cost almost nothing. They had an initial purchase of books because we had like, they've written little lessons. It was cute. Anyway, little themes and things. But really, it was just coordinating volunteers who were largely retired teachers. And it's something, we were able to partner with like Community Action. We were able to partner with Head Start and all kinds of places. And it's sort of dwindled over the years. But the reason I bring that up is that going along with what you were saying earlier about getting principals on the same page and like, shared vision and like, what's the plan for now and a little bit later and in the way future, how do we get on that track? Is coming up with like these systems and practices to bring people into our buildings. And like she's already holding it up. And I love how enthusiastic you are about this, Carol, and I'm really not trying
it's systems. It's
Yes.
all about these fundamental systems
right.
and training people in making sure that those happen.
Yes.
And I think, I can't see how it would not be a benefit. I look at the elementary principals, right? 4 out of the 6 of them are pretty, but like brand new.
Well,
right.
my children's school doesn't even have a permanent principal right now.
And yeah, I mean, so, what, and of course, I'm from the old school of, school reform movement, and it was school-based and it was, having strong educational leaders in the building, the principal being the main driver, not the only educational leader, but the main driver. And, to me that this would, we need to strengthen our principals in the elementary in particular. We need to, and I'm not saying any of them are bad. I just, they're new. And the other thing about also many of them being new is that you lose the cohesiveness of the group.
100%.
And you want to build the cohesiveness of that group so that they are helping and supporting one another. And the idea of that, yes, you're the leader of your building, but you're also for the entire district because we want it to be a district-wide initiative. To me, that would be also the beauty of that. And like I said, this to me, it focuses on that school culture framework, which we haven't been. And again, we've reconfigured twice, and we haven't really given the elementary schools the opportunity to really work on their culture and creating that and making it special. And I'm sure they're working on those pieces, but it's really hard. And this would be a way to support that, to help that, and focus on instruction. And I see an awful lot of benefits to doing something like that for a district like ours when we now, again, the report cards and I put together some stuff on the elementary schools, like literacy. We have over 80% of our kids who are not meeting standards. And, hey, that needs a lot of focus and a lot of effort and a lot of work. And the other thing that I see with the beauty about some of this stuff too is, and I had a lot of discussions with my staff about some of that kind of stuff. I mean, you're looking at different initiatives and different things coming through and how you manage all these things. And it's like, yes, it will be a lot of work, right? But you're working really hard right now.
But that is
Right.
work. Well, and that's exactly
And
my
it's like,
point.
we just need to focus our work and focus it.
Yes.
So
Focus it,
what
yes.
we're doing, the work that we're doing and the hard work that we're doing
Mm-hmm.
is really getting us the results that we're aiming
Because
for.
why are we spinning wheels?
Yeah.
Right. We need a direction that we're all like in alignment and everything is reciprocal
Right.
with accountability, and there are mechanisms that survive people that are not based on the charisma or energy of one or a few people, that are systemic, which means there has to be like these systems of accountability. What I'm hearing, and I want to, just because I'm trying to take down what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that maybe another outcome from our discussion tonight to kind of bring forward, whether it's to admin or to the full board or whatever, would be, a commitment from the board to bring in something, right? to focus, I'm hearing like district cohesion and culture, systems, culture, just systems, like in general, but systems and a lot of that tiered PD, right? With intentionality. It's like that's something that's really important. And I won't put words in your mouth, but is that where you're at too?
Yeah.
So I'm with the
You're
intentionality.
focusing on instruction.
Yes. So like,
how do we improve instruction? And again, the thing that I really liked about Skyrocket was the level of
the tiered
thing. It's like, okay, if you're already a quality teacher, there's a tier for you, and you can still get, some people working with you on how you can improve that, or how you help that, or how you can, move that to helping somebody else if that's what you need to do. But it's not like everybody gets the same thing.
Well, and I want to, just for my processing style, I just want to kind of take a moment to summarize, but before I just want to just a cautionary note on how we frame things. Like the very first year I was on the board, we had a superintendent that had directed administrators to rate teachers 1, 2, and 3, which was incredibly problematic for many reasons. And there's probably enough institutional memory left of our teachers to have maybe a reaction to that. So I understand what you're saying.
Let's talk about differentiating instruction.
But we do need to based on needs, because like Joanne and I are both, I'm in a quality educators. My needs and areas for growth might be different from Joanne's needs, and we have two different jobs.
New teachers versus experience.
Well, and even amidst experienced teachers. So I mean, it's just like it's just got to be needs driven, just like we are with our students. I just want
we differentiate for our students.
Yeah.
We should differentiate for our staff.
Absolutely.
I've been saying that for years and years.
I have heard from a few staff members. It's like we go to the staff development, and it's like, we don't need it. They feel like they're wasting their time, and we don't want our teachers feeling like they're wasting their time.
Well, even just the quality of just like, just like you have to engage your students, like the students might feel like it's wasted time too. But in building the relevance, an authentic.
But you've got to make sure that
it's multifaceted.
So
I think another part of this that I feel is really important is respecting our educators as the experts they are. They go to school to learn how to do this. We also have trained our entire staff because the state has demanded this. They all have taken very rigorous reading instruction programming. The programming that I went through, a reading specialist, she said, this is on the same level as what I learned when I was going to school to be a reading specialist. So we have some highly qualified people in our buildings now that are delivering instruction. And I think it's important that we recognize that and honor who they are as educators too.
Well, that's one of my questions is how are we then elevating that input from, I just wrote like educators or in-district stakeholders, because before we, whether it's like the more immediate decision that we're being faced with about, the direction of potentially taking advantage of this donation, but beyond that, how do we uplift the voices and kind of continued input of the people who are most impacted by these systems and choices. So like I'll just say, even talking about the 2012-2015 kind of era, there were issues with that that people would say, we still need to work through this, or that might have worked really well for you, Megan, over at the high school, but it's different at the middle, that kind of stuff. Like that
all
has to
time.
be because it's continuous improvement, right?
Right.
So like, how do we? So that's with respect to what you're saying. Like, how do we, by design, systemically again, braid in, right, that continuous feedback from our stakeholders in our district, including parents and students, but certainly in terms of like from the user standpoint, like our educators and our coaches, right? Like as part of that continuous improvement process, right? So, I mean, I think like part of, as I'm sort of reshaping, my original ask, which is, like, what is our, what do we have that's working? What do we need? What are our barriers? Part of that should be, what layers, dimensions, systems, whatever have to be added so that it can be like this is like just like how we do business in the school district of Beloit for
Mhm.
literacy. Like this is how our teachers continuously add to, you know, its improvement and things like that, right?
And there's history here, right?
Yeah.
So I remind people often, like when I was going to the high school, every single year while I was at the high school, we celebrated multiple people going off to Ivy League colleges after high school. Like this is a district that knows how to create students, scholars that go on to Ivy League colleges. We do know how to do that. Second, we have a community that works really hard and loves to build in. I remember, oh goodness, when Mr. Wong was on the board, he was going around to different schools because they were trying to mobilize a volunteer force. And we heard about it and then it disappeared, unfortunately. I think that was another time with lots of changes. And so, I mean, there's ideas out there that maybe we could, go look back at and see what was good about it, what we could change about it. And then the third part, the reason why I know what's going on in our schools is because teachers let me know. And a lot of times it's because they're not in favor of what we're doing. If I am assessing, I am not teaching. You can only do one or the other. Ames, the Act 20, how often do they say we need to assess our students? But how time of the students on the plans?
Oh, weekly. No, it's weekly progress.
Is it weekly or is it biweekly?
No, it is in the statute. The one, is it 160? It's the one with the 16 in it. Weekly.
Oh, it is
Progress
weekly
monitoring
now.
is required by state statute.
Which is unfortunate.
It is well, and it depends on the kid, though, right? It's either fortunate or it's unfortunate. But the problem with state mandated legislation is that it takes away the professionalism and the ability of a professional to exercise their expertise. There are students who absolutely need weekly progress monitoring. There are students who don't. But now that decision is taken away from the educator, and it essentially causes harm to the student, which is another reason that I want to be careful of like programs versus practices. So I'm not saying anything good or bad about any programs. But again, I think where our focus as a board really needs to be is on practices, like how to, and that's really our job as a board. We're here to set vision for the district. And if our vision is something that operates systemically with a vision of continuous instructional like improvement, then we are, and we can enact that, then we're doing our jobs. And whatever shiny program, what doesn't matter. They can come and go, and everything has something of value to offer, right? There's no silver bullet curriculum, there's no silver bullet program. Doesn't matter. But our focus has to be, how do we like serve our community and do what we said we were here to do, and give that guidance and make some non-negotiables. Like we need the, and I'm just going to say it again. Deb and I were on the phone earlier today. We had a great discussion. We had a thing that worked so well that we were state recognized. And I can't rattle out the exact years, but I know when I was in the district, and I should have I have a whole box of stuff from when I was a teacher. I have like that pamphlet. You remember where they said like, oh, Hackett won this many awards with this, we had, it was like a whole color, really nice printed packet of all the awards that our different schools got recognized for, whether it was growth or achievement or all these kind of things. That entire chunk of time, we have and can again do those things. Why were we successful? Because we had systems. We had experts helping us within our district systems.
Also threw a bomb into those systems, right?
Yes.
Because we reconfigured the schools.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Right?
No,
and
yes.
we didn't take the time
argument.
to reconfigure some of those systems.
Right.
And then we threw another bomb into the schools and reconfigured back again. And I think that impact has hit the elementary schools harder. And I was thinking about the report cards too. It's like, it's like, okay, let's see what happened. The middle schools all of a sudden are doing way better. They used to have 5 grade levels. Now they only have 3.
And that was
right?
why we reconfigured back, was because of the impact on their program. Anytime there's change,
Right.
Look, there's good and bad everything, but you got to
The elementary had 1 grade.
Right.
Now they have 3.
That was awful.
and so it makes a huge impact on some of those outcomes. But regardless, when you look at the overall, right, and you look at grade level, or you look at just the overall, whatever we've been doing isn't working too well because our kids aren't doing as well as we want them to do. They just aren't, right? 80% of the elementary kids are not meeting standards. That's just not good.
Right, and what we've been doing is we've had, and I don't even want to count, how much superintendent turnover?
Right.
How many systems have been lost? I remember right when I first got elected, and I won't name names,
So
somebody said, oh my gosh, Megan, you wouldn't believe how much people out, they gutted this whole thing at the elementary, and this person wanted to do it this way. That it has to do with having a vision and sticking to it.
this kind of program is designed for creating those kinds of systems, working with the people within the group, the schools, to create and study their systems. Let's do an audit of the systems, find out what's going on, what are you doing well, what do you need to tweak, what do you need to add, right? And really work on those kinds of systems. That's why this one or something like it, I mean, but again, when I did my research, and I would like to get Lisa to say to us, you know, because they came up with us when they did Lincoln Academy, they went with this one, right? And it's like, what did you look at? What did you study? Why this one?
Well, and that's, go ahead.
But to go back and work on redeveloping our systems and make them work again for us.
Well, and Carol, and I hear you, and and it's fine, but we did this. We already did it. We did it very, very successfully.
I get it, but how do we go back?
And that's exactly, how do we go back?
How do we go back?
So I think it's a marriage of
all
building.
these new people.
But wait.
Yep.
We did it successfully in most buildings, but not all buildings.
We also,
And so
for years.
we do need to, I like the idea of having cohesiveness
Mhm.
so we can see that success in all of our buildings, support for all of our
And they don't come out a little,
principals and-
we were all different,
Mhm.
right? But there was a cohesion. And then, again, we've had superintendents and over again, different superintendents and all that kind of stuff. And as a result, we've lost a lot of our building administrators. We also, we had more elementary schools now. We have fewer, right? And so it changes the whole dynamic. And to look at something that, is like, yeah, let's just all work together and work on how to figure out how to create it. And those systems that will be newly developed won't be the ones that we worked with. It's 2026. Oh my God.
Yes.
It's almost,
Yeah.
When I was first working on this, it was way last century.
So what I would say
School reform, it was way last century.
And anything pre-COVID does not work anymore. I'm just saying.
Well, I have a huge objection to that because the pre-COVID stuff that will always work is based on like neurocognitively how human beings learn. There are certain things about reading that will never age out. Like having tactile, multi-sensory, relevant experiences with text is not something that is like a pre or post-COVID. Like there are certain like things that are through lines.
Right.
And so will it things will like look and work differently? Like, of course, but the concept of, and again, and I just want to sort of laud the people who were in district, like Pam Wise, and it was at the time Pam Kiefer, Deb Rossert, Mary Studeman, Lynn Roden, Tom Johnson, like I could name other names. Leslie Richter's back, at Hackett was here. All of these people built this system. No system, of course, is perfect,
Mhm.
but it's that continuous improvement. And I guess I'm certainly not arguing that, against anything you just said here. What I am saying, though, is that we shouldn't be so quick to chase a shiny object. And what we should do is make sure that what we do is germane and first of all, desired with the current staff that we have that is doing the work. We need to have, I guess if we're going to get into the logistics, since you do keep bringing up the specific program, I'll say as a board member, what I need to see for yes vote is I need to have input from our educators who be impacted. And I think that there needs to be some kind of criteria that we set as a district for how will this fit into our non-negotiables for things that we know will produce the growth that we want. And I'm sure it will, because like you said, everything you're saying is fantastic. What I'm saying though, led by the nose, program to program, it has to come from us. And we may land in the same place, but the process matters. Like, I don't want to go cart before the horse. That's been almost my entire experience here being on the school board. It's constantly the struggle of cart before the horse. And now we got to do this, now we got to do this, and urgent, hospital, it's insane. What we need to do is, and the three of us are educators, we know, not all the things, but we sure do know what works. We've said it over and over again, all three of us in this conversation. We already know the bare bones, like, here back to basics. We need a bedrock to build these things on, or it's not going to be effective. What's going to happen if we don't have that bedrock?
And
This
how
is
do
going
we
to help.
do that?
Yes, and that's my question. And I think what I would like, so here is one of three, one of seven. And I don't know that this is the all-encompassing right answer, but I think a way to start is to say, as a board, this is our expectation for what we want, like literacy and intervention, which pertains to math, it pertains to behaviors, right? This is how we need it to function.
So tell me what that would be.
And I'm telling you what it would be. So the how, we need multiple metrics to inform, right, those tiered systems. So we know, like, our bottom quartile has different needs in terms of like dosage, types of what the intensity of the intervention, like the qualifications of the person intervening, then like our kids who are like sitting in that 40 to 60th, right? Our need, just like you were talking about with teachers, our needs are different. So how are we systemically, accurately identifying those needs in a proactive way? Because we already have the screeners. I don't like over testing kids, but you got to get information from kids. So let's make it count and use it for something, and not just for writing up reports that are now required, right? Let's like really use it for something. So I think step one, you have to have that system of using multiple metrics to place students appropriately. Step two, you have to have a train the trainers. You have to have, like, we had every Thursday, we had our prep with the reading specialist who gave us professional development that was relevant because it was exactly what we were teaching. It was based on the student data with the kids right in front of us. It wasn't abstract. It wasn't, hey, in theory, here's some stuff about Hattie, which I love, by the way. But, it was something that you're using right now in front of you. So you have that train the trainers that builds on the expertise that we already have in our district. And that would not be harmed in any way, right? By bringing something else in. So none of this is
I was going to say, aren't we
pro or con.
already doing all of those
Well,
things?
that's why I was saying, like, let's find out, like, what are we
are doing
where?
that.
Well, we are.
No. Teresa was here, what, 2 times
Arc.
ago?
We
Showing
bring
us
in trainers.
the reading systems, and
Yep.
the ERLA and all of
Mhm.
those things that they're doing, and how many kids are on a reading plan, and
Mhm.
all that stuff is there.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of that.
But ARC has it too. ARC has it too. And the
exactly.
ERLA and the
And,
dashboard, like all of those things are in
Yes.
place. It's the overarching thing. And you keep bringing up all these like rock star names. Okay, Tom Johnson was the leader of all of them. Heavy recruitment. That man, whatever building he went to, guess what? He took his team with him because he knew who he trusted and who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So how do we as a district do that kind of recruitment?
No, and that's a great question. And I think part of it is listening to teachers and doing things that work. The only thing I'm going to say about, you're asking about the how, and
He
I
took
think
them from Hackett.
He
they're
did.
already
I
here.
know. He was good at recruiting his people and taking them where he
it's
went.
Like, I had a bunch of people that followed me too, but it's just like that is part of that educational leadership business when you're building those
Mhm.
strong leaders. I mean, it's and we talked about that one, we have a good example of that at Aldridge. He's a
Mhm.
recruiter. He gets them over there, and he has people that stick with him because he provides that quality leadership that the staff appreciates
And
we need
convinces
to work
retired
on,
people to come back.
and pay them a
And here you
bundle.
are, though. But, I mean, just if I can just finish the point, I mean, we have, so Act 20 only goes through third grade though, right?
Yeah.
So Act 20 goes through third grade, and we do have a wonderful elementary schools, and that, again, continuous improvement. We're not done with anything ever, right? I'm really happy, honestly, with what we're going on at the elementary school that I'm aware of, which I'm not, omniscient. I have 2 kids at Todd, whatever. But where we've really dropped the ball on what worked before that got us really good outcomes, that closed opportunity gaps that we have lost over time. And it's not through nothing, it's just through change, right? It's through the erosion, right, of the cycles and cycles of rapid change. Is we don't have the same level of robust, proactive, consistent, evidence-based resources and intervention like we had before for our 6 through 12. And Teresa did tell us that Springboard is being sold, and I think it's Houghton Mifflin that bought it, is sunsetting the program more than likely because it competes with one of theirs anyway. We have an opportunity, and this is another, like, if we're talking about staying in our lane as a board directive could be when we adopt, because we are inevitably going to have to, whether it's a 6 through 8 or a 6 through 12, whatever curriculum to replace it, that it has to have an evidence-based, robust literacy intervention program embedded. And if you jump on ed reports and just do a little searching, there are several extremely high quality curriculums that also already have these things built into them.
I get, and I understand that, Megan. I get all that. I don't understand what all of that has to do with this.
Well, we came here tonight, it said on the agenda to talk about literacy. So I came prepared to have a literacy discussion, Carol, and I'm not disputing anything you are saying.
Yeah, I'm not, I thought we were talking about the Hendricks
well,
choice.
I guess, so my read of that was the literacy piece, but no, I feel like you and I are fairly on the same page. Like, I haven't disagreed with anything you said, but I guess the reason I'm saying it's spending so much time on we need to look at when we were like literally the leader of literacy intervention in the state of Wisconsin. We don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. And so as we look to the future, we want to honor what worked well in our past. And I think one thing that has really been lost in Beloit, and when we think about our school district, is the value we already have inside of us. I am never going to say no to some kind of help if it will help. Collaboration always makes everything better. Like, I can't think of a situation where it's somehow better to not work together with somebody or to collaborate. But you can't lose who you are. And I think we have the value already of having had the experience and still research. I still have the stuff in my Google Drive. I mean, we're a phone call away. And some people still even live locally in the community to say, hey, let's take a look at what really worked. We have the benefit of hindsight and reflection. And that's part of continuous improvement as a model, right? Is reflecting back, what did the data look like then? What has changed since? What could it be now? New situation, right? You never step in the same river twice. But we can honor what worked well in the past, braid it together with how we move forward into the future. And I'm just saying, our role as a board when it comes to literacy is to take a very strong set of non-negotiables. We need data-driven proactive systems. It's got to be 4K through 12. We're not just doing things because Act 20 said. We were doing things already. We are doing the Act 20 things, but we were already doing the things. You know what I'm saying? And so I just don't want us to get lost in the narrative of, well, we have to do what this person and this person and this person. Learning with means like we honor ourselves and what we already have of value as a district. And I just think that it doesn't have to be a one or the other. I mean, I really think this can be a both and conversation. And especially after, my own experience as an educator, who I really feel like I grew up in Beloit, it's completely informed the trajectory of not only my career. I mean, everything that's like of value in my life and in my heart comes from, like, really, without sounding hyperbolic, it's true. And it comes from the experience I had teaching reading here at the high school. It completely shaped, the colleagues that I have the privilege of having worked with again, like outside of Beloit. We all have this this community with each other because we got to experience this together and we saw those outcomes. Like, I got to watch 9th graders who were struggling with like 1st grade reading levels become fluent readers. It's powerful stuff, and we can do that again. And we have kids who desperately need us to do that again.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But again, if we could fix our systems in the elementary school, there'd be, as the years go by, there'd be less need for that at the high school. Yeah. There certainly is need for it now.
Well, and there's always going to be need because we have kids moving into the district. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but
there's always going to be needs, but we can make it less.
But we can turn it back into a regular triangle rather than the inverted triangle of interventions needing to be done.
We have so many kids that
and there are some
assistance.
Yeah, I mean, we can say, like, we would like to see, and we can define the criteria. Like, I keep using the word non-negotiables, and we can say, like, statistically, right, it should be this percentage of kids should be in that tier 3, not this right? And that can be a guiding, like accountable, like transparent, like we can show the data literally, like the driver, right, for what we want literacy to look like and how we continue to strive. And then there's going to be like the disaggregated data, like maybe these populations, we hit that in a certain amount of time, but we still need, that's that continuous improvement piece. But I think that has to be something that we say, like, this is what we're doing and this stays. And it doesn't matter who's on the, eventually, whatever, hopefully that culture on the board will sustain. It doesn't matter who's in what seat. This is what's going to drive us, because this is really what we owe our kids. And we can use, this and that program, and there'll be other things, but they're not of value unless they fit into, unless they fit into something that we have the responsibility. Like, we have that responsibility to build. And I mean, really, the word that keeps coming to mind for me is like bedrock, like back to basics. That's what everybody likes to say. And this is what it means. It means that we have established this is who we are, and this is who we want to serve and how we want to serve our kids in our district. And it's not just going to be all over the place. But to your point about volunteer programs, there have been a couple of moms that I've talked to over the last couple of weeks. And, like I said, some experiences that I had a couple of years ago at the library. I think and I don't know if this is like a committee of the board type thing or something that we could take on, or that we'd even want to or have the capacity to take on. But the reason that the volunteer thing that John Wan was working on kind of petered out is because they kept trying to do like a district level volunteer coordinator, and they're just like the communication. It was a lot of bottlenecking and just people. It wasn't the right system. And John, if I'm remembering correctly, reflected to me that it's really got to be like principal to principal. But he also wanted the benefit, which I did too. The benefit of having it, like, make sure we hit all the whole district.
Right.
So like, as you're talking about district cohesion, and maybe this can be part of what this is, I'm wondering if part of this can we set also as a board a priority for our building leaders, and it's going to take, and I don't want to drop stuff onto people's laps and things like that, but could we suggest to our administration to consider, like, how best could we aspire, build up toward every building should be able to coordinate with, this type of volunteer program. So set up for people, like, build capacity for communication and who's your point person. And I think to some extent this already exists in different buildings. Like, I know who to call at my kids' schools if some, you know what I mean? What I'm getting at is then we could do some engagement with the community about how do we set up, whether it's in addition to or whatever, but I still think we have to do our own things for it to be sustainable, a really robust volunteer kind of tutoring program. UFly is free. It is evidence-based. If you go on the What Works Clearinghouse, what is it, the Institute of Educational Sciences website, there are like meta-analyses available. They've looked at like externally validated data to show like these are the types of programming that produce outcomes consistently across populations, and UFly absolutely fits that description. It's a phenomenal program. It's free on the internet. If anybody's watching like a video recording later, just go to Google UFly and it's all on there. There's like a $60 teacher guide or something like that, which you don't like totally even need, but like I will buy a teacher guide for all the buildings. Like, it's whatever, right? And so we have reading specialists who could sit down with a group of volunteers if it's within the capacity to do, if this is what we decide to do, and do training. And so I did a little research on volunteer programs and the effectiveness. I found the same thing that you found, but the caveat to that, with it not being classroom teachers to make it effective, is the ones that were volunteer driven for people who were either pairs or volunteers, there had to be some level of like compensation, because where the volunteer programs fall way short, in the studies where they did fall way short, was when it was just purely volunteer, and then you're on vacation, or, oh, actually my kid's got a thing to, or, whatever it is. Yeah. So that would be something that
it's snowing. I don't want to come outside.
It's felt. But like, that's something that, again, we can set a strategic priority to say, like, we want to find a way, it's a community partnership, maybe, and I don't know, and I'm just spitballing, but like State Line Community Foundation might, help get a ball rolling if we did like a startup, like a grant thing, just to incentivize. When we did it at the library, and I don't have permission to drop names, so I won't, but one was with you on the ad hoc committee for finance. Just really dedicated people showed up all the time. Anyway, there are people out there who, for nothing or very little, whether they're retired teachers or their parents or grandparents or aunts, whatever, we'll show up, hey, an hour this day. And then you have the benefit too of that sustainable relationship with like a human person that is in front of you. And don't get me started on all the backlash we got with COVID and like, oh, nothing virtual is as good as in person. Agreed. So let's get it in person. And if we want to do something, if like open literacy, for example, which is virtual, as a supplement to something that we're building, so for more an in-person thing should be the focus, then fine. But we can't just do that just because it's been potentially dropped in our lap. What are we doing to take responsibility and accountability and ownership ourselves? So, I mean, again, this is like not like, it's a committee of the board. It's something that I think as an outcome of this meeting, I'd like us to consider, like, if at all, what capacity do we have to take some initiative, to do some outreach, in tandem with Dr. Anderson and with Mr. Stemmers, Rochelle Elliott, and who already have some outstanding community connections already, and work with them to it's like assets-based community development. How do you take what assets we already have and rearrange them toward this vision of giving our kids more and like really producing like with integrity, like improved instructional outcomes for our kids with what we have already right here.
I don't disagree with any of that at all. And but I don't, again, I think I said that before, whatever we land on in terms of some of the things that are being offered by the Hendricks Foundation does not preclude us from doing any of that.
No, same page, 100%.
I think, it would be wonderful if we could get a lot of our paraeducators trained in a tutoring model of some sort. I think that would be great. Volunteers, if you can get them.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I mean,
People from the college, from the university.
I read an article the other day that said one of the most effective tutors that you can find for the younger kids are high school students.
I was just so we have a program at Parkview where we, our school psych
Job
does
shadowing.
a phenomenal job of she's trained our high school students, some of our high school students in Read Naturally. And there's another program too, and I'm totally not going to remember it. Something it's like Mend and Blend maybe. They're terrific kids. We have terrific kids here in Beloit, and they get to, and I actually sometimes am sitting in tandem with them because we share space and listening to the work they do with the kids. And we actually just today looked at some data, and the data is good. The data is very good. The data is also very good, by the way, with Reading Core, which is something that I can't believe we haven't. Let's look into Reading Core. It's an AmeriCorps program. It's absolutely phenomenal. We have a Reading Corps volunteer starting at Parkview who's from Beloit. She's starting next week. I mean, like, let's get on that. But so I don't know, like, if we're taking notes or whatever, but I would love to submit, again, as an outcome of our meeting this evening, some feedback to Dr. Anderson, just to say, like, here are some things like out the gate that we would like to explore or put some feelers out to, like the feasibility of doing so. And Reading Corps should be at the absolute top of the list. It's a grant, and they have, and because it's a grant, they're getting lots of data. I get to do the fidelity checks for Reading Core. I mean, it's a lot of oversight, a lot of data. It's great stuff. So like, let's just, like, to your point, it doesn't preclude, like, let's do all the things. We just have to consider the opportunity costs, because there are some opportunity costs. So, I'm not trying to naysay anything. And I know that there's some dialogue in the community that likes to cast and shape our perspectives for us. So, but as we're all sitting here in front of, I know, as we're sitting here in front of each other, my only interest is having, like, just like yours is, like, let's just, like, dump all the Legos out on the table, and what's the best thing we can build with all the Legos that we can use, right? So, and I just don't want this conversation to end here. So I guess my other kind of desired outcome I would have is, like, if this, not this something this long probably, but if this can be like maybe like a standing committee, like, agenda item, like we get a report from, Dr. Anderson or whomever, or Rochelle or whoever, about, like, wait, this is where we are on these things. And maybe, I don't know if we come up with, like, some pillars of, like, where are, or for different grade levels or however we want it to look. But that's probably a discussion we should have, because it's our job, again, as board members, to provide that accountability and direction. So I think if we're serious about literacy, I mean, these are the things that need to happen.
Yes. So I have a few thoughts. One, okay, I agree. I agree. The building blocks of literacy, of education, they stay the same no matter what. As far back as people were learning how to read, we all made the blended into words, things like that. My classroom right now, looks very different than my classroom before COVID.
Oh, for sure.
And so we do need to consider who our children are at this point and what they've been through. Another part of improving literacy in Beloit is improving attendance and figuring out how to do that. That's another part where we need to bring our community on board and have them be part of it. Our pediatricians, we have fantastic things happening at our public library. They are building us basically an early childhood museum that we as a district, we need to utilize that too. So that's my point number one. Point two, as a classroom teacher, I learned that a teacher in a day makes more decisions than a brain surgeon. And I will go even further and say, if you teach early childhood, if you teach P4 or 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, first graders, it's probably even more, because it's all those little things all day long. So for myself, if I know that a canned program covers everything I need, it is one less thing that I need to spend my brain power on. And so I love UFly because it has everything I need. I know where it's weak and I supplement there, but I don't have to make decisions during that half hour. It's all there. And so if we find something that works and can take a little bit of the load off of our administrators, off of our teachers. Like, I love building things and I love, like the big picture stuff. I don't know if we have the emotional capacity in this moment to do that, because we have teachers that are teaching students, absorbing students from other classes. We have people leaving and other people coming in, and there's all of this stuff going on outside of what they, like, I say it myself even. I want to teach. That's why I went into this, was to teach. And we have all these other things that you have to juggle and figure out, and decisions you're making about, is this a moment where I call the office for help, or am I supposed to keep doing all these other things and try to teach at the same time as all of this other stuff? And so if we find that something is helpful for our administration and our teachers, like for right now, I think that would be lovely. And down the road, when we have built back up, because that bedrock, right?
Steps, right.
And we are Beloit, and we know who we are, and we know who we can be. And I think right now, it's that scaffolding, right?
Yes,
So like for
yes.
now, we need extra scaffolding. Help us get there. And then once we're up there, then yes, like I love the big picture stuff and dreaming and trying, like we are innovators in Beloit. That's our history. It's in our DNA. And so I think we're at a point in time where like we're poised for greatness. Like this is our moment where we can go, we can fly. And we have all these administrators that are moldable because they're new. And we have students coming back and having better attendance, and we're getting our behaviors, like sorted out, and teachers are feeling like they're being heard. And so like we have all these things, and it's like we just need this one last thing to help send us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that's what we get to do as a board, right? Is to,
Mhm.
is to set that vision, set that direction. I want to clarify,
Mhm.
and I'm 100% not saying, hey, let's have teachers go build the whole thing. And I'm certainly not saying not to be responsive to the need. I mean, that's it's what it all hinges on, is being, is looking at like the clear picture of like whole child, like who are our kids in front of us, and how do we create systems around them to meet their needs? That's the system. It's just having that, the data, the good, the access to the resources that we need, the training, like again, that 6 through 12 curriculum is on the horizon, and things like that. So yeah, no, I just 100% same page. I just wanting to clarify. I think like what we could do as a board, like you said, that next thing is to say like, okay, well, this is our expectation going into next year. We're about to hire an assistant superintendent of teaching and learning. I'm not quite, maybe I got the name wrong for the position, but
I'm not sure.
what are you?
A person.
We're going to hire Teresa. And I mean, we have this hour, and you know, Lynn is you know, really seasoned, you know, superintendent, can help us, you know, operationally set the stage. And that's what we need to be doing right now, is setting the stage. And I'm not, again, this is not an either or. This in the spirit of having a both and conversation, you know, we're having conversation. Like, let's set the stage and say, like, not just, yeah, we want a better reading, but we already know, I'm just saying, we already know the building bones, the building blocks, whatever, of a high functioning, like, district literacy practice. So however that shapes up is going to be up to our administration, our of course, our teachers, you know, all of our stakeholders to build that. It's not our job to build it. Of course, I'm sure we're all willing to do all the things, whatever we need to do. But our job is to set that vision and to hold our district accountable to striving for that vision. And so whatever that looks like for us, I mean, is where we should start.
All right. Would you like to, anything else you would like to share? Because we're going to wrap things up now. That was a nice little.
We could talk literacy forever.
I know. I love this
Yeah.
stuff.
It's like, when do we talk about getting rid of the iPads and things like that?
Oh, actually, okay, wait, sorry. You said these, I promise. I have to make a child from dance. I will leave. To that point, though, why not take advantage of, and not, so open literacy is literally on the computer, so it's not that specific program, but why not, if we're taking a fresh look at our intervention practices, you know, UFly, and I understand there's slide decks, can be very much paper and pencil. And we know, because we know, and there's like a gajillion article of things, multisensory, tactile, like the physicality of reading is what makes readers excel. So like, that's not a bad, I know you're being a little flippant in that comment, but
no, I'm not.
But no, I wholeheartedly agree that this is the opportunity. And again, that's why I want to go back to like, however we move forward also has to be informed by our staff, particularly our teachers and for reading, you know, our reading specialists, you know, are really, their voices have to be a part of the next step.
Absolutely.
Like, they have to be
For literacy, absolutely.
and I want to know, and it's fine, you know, you and I'm positive are on the same page. Most of the literacy stuff, but I want to know like the nuances though, and like how it plays, like the how though, like has to be informed by your teachers. Like, what specifically are they saying? Like, what are their needs? Like, it might be more aspirational than we think for some of these things to happen, or it might be, you know. So that's why,
we have to be careful about that too. But you know, and open literacy, it's computer, but it's you know, like this, a live you know, it's a person that's actually talking. But you know, my brother tutors his grandchildren in Chinese, I think, over the internet. So I mean, that kind of stuff can be done. But you know, the physical, you know, having a real live person is, I think, much more beneficial. But at some point, you take what you can get. Right?
Well, and I just don't want us to. Okay, but I think we can both. I think we can get both.
I think we can get both. I think we can get. Yeah, I think we can too. I think
and I don't think we should settle for less one.
You know, you know, we can train in some paraeducators, I think, and how to do tutoring and some of those kinds of things, and we can look for volunteers. I absolutely agree that we can do some of those things. Getting licensed teachers to tutor, I don't know. And again, you know, we rolled over $500,000 in the AGR, and because we can't figure out how to spend it now, maybe we spend it on something where we can get a licensed teacher, whether it's over the internet or not. You know, why wouldn't we? And if we don't start using up some of that money, the state's going to say, oh gosh, you don't really need it after all.
That's back to your point of intentionality. Exactly.
You know, so, and what could it hurt to do some of that for especially some of our younger kids that you know, needs a real basic tutoring. Like, you know,
I'm surprised they wanted third grade. You know, like open literacy is really big. It's a lot of it's UFly. A lot of it's very like UFly, which is why I'm like, you know, here's something for free. Like you know, but third grade is, you know, quintessential. I would almost like, why not start early second?
Well, I think, you know, they're their target is third grade literacy.
Well, they're well, no, we use it at Parkview, and it's not just third grade literacy, it's through 6.
No, I mean, for Hendricks,
Well,
their
no,
target is
right.
to improve the third grade literacy.
Right,
so
but why, but that's my point, is like, why wouldn't you start it at second?
you
Because that's where
probably do.
As a kindergarten teacher, I love when they talk about interventions at kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the earlier the
Yes.
intervention,
I
the
don't-
faster
I don't
that
think
they
they're saying
improve.
that for,
And
for
right.
all those 3 years, it's just gonna
Oh,
be
it's only
third
the-
graders that are the
Oh,
tutor.
okay,
No.
but I
That's-
apologize, my mistake, because, okay, so
No.
I would say 100%, like, early.
Mhm.
I would, I mean, I'm not saying like, don't give it to third graders,
Mhm.
but like, the way it's built, I would go way early on it, like, way early, because I mean, as a kindergarten teacher,
Mhm.
middle of first grade, if you're still not getting the
Mhm.
CBCs down, like, we're not waiting until third grade, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
there's so much lost in that. So yeah, I would say like middle first.
President Johnson.
So on the second page of their proposal, the second paragraph, I believe it is, our recommendation is that the slots be distributed 20/20/20 for first through third grade.
Okay,
Mhm.
So it's,
okay.
it's not
Right.
just third grade.
It's not just
Mhm.
third grade.
And
But that's a recommendation.
Through third
because,
grade,
Again,
through
like the
third
20 feels, so
And,
yeah, that's
well,
fine.
They
And-
recommend you could do
and
30 in first grade.
Right,
and
because we have to look at the
you have to,
data.
And
yeah,
the
yeah, you have
explanation
to,
is they're
and
talking about slots, not number of
No,
students.
I do
because-
understand
Because some
slots.
students will graduate.
Exit
out
right
and-
away. And yeah,
Right.
especially those younger kids, they usually do. Because
Yeah.
again,
Oh, yeah,
the,
sometimes it just
it's a
needs that
shorter
little bit.
gap. And so much easier.
Exactly.
Okay. So
Yeah.
did you
yeah.
say what you wanted to say
Oh,
for your last thing, or
yeah, I can always think of something to say. So yeah, I can be done.
did you have one last thing you wanted to say?
No, I mean,
No?
yeah, just
Okay.
responsive.
President Johnson, did you have anything else that you would like to say?
It's been an interesting discussion. Thank you for having this. It is a different world, post-COVID. It really is. The students are very different, and I'm excited to consider this opportunity for our district, and because reading is so critical and essential to help inform a student's life and the positive outcomes that come with it. There are reasons we can't get enough staff. There are reasons that are outside of our control, and there are reasons that are within our control. And that also includes the same reasons why we can't get tutors. And I've been working on some of that through the ad hoc committee and addressing the behaviors. We are making progress. We still have a long ways to
yes.
go in that regard, and we're working on it one day at a time. We're gonna get there. We really are.
May I ask a follow-up question, since you said you're looking at it with the ad hoc? Have we considered reading core? And if not, is that something that can be like a right away action step?
I'm not on that ad hoc committee, so that
okay,
would be a
you're-
better question
yeah.
for.
That's the right now they were looking at discipline. I think their hope is if we are able to turn the corner, so to speak, on discipline, that the next thing we would look at is attendance then.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the
Yeah.
presentation that I shared with you earlier, attendance, it's all central. And
Right.
Like I said,
They're all
not
interlinked.
in any way disputing it's a
Mhm.
very different world. Like I work in a school, like, I know. There are things though that don't change, like attendance will matter. And that's all I
Yes.
mean, right?
Yeah.
When I say that, I would say I really don't know why we wouldn't like look into reading core.
Mhm.
And the Lincoln Academy also uses reading core. One of my questions for Lisa is I would love to see what are their outcomes look like, compare it, like where they see, because it's just, that's why you got to disaggregate it. Like UFly might work really well with this population of students. Open literacy might work really well with like this population. So like we want to be intentional and strategic with how we use the things. So why not use the things? And I don't think that there's any outside of and I don't want to understate because I know this is important, but there are administrative pieces that need to happen to like bring in something like reading core.
Mhm.
But certainly there's not, why not do that? It's
I've
in the
never heard of it
community.
before, so.
It's phenomenal. It's a really well-established, long-standing AmeriCorps program. It's at Parkview. It's at TLA. Anyway, I think.
I
that could be an
asked
action
about
step.
it when I met with the cabinet members and superintendent, and I forget what the response was.
Well, I asked Teresa and she just said that it hadn't been considered, which is fine. We've got a lot, like you said, we got a lot of fish to fry. So it's not a criticism.
Well,
but
yeah,
that's
I
good.
asked last month.
Yeah,
You know, I keep, and I don't remember what their response was that time, but I think there was a lot of stuff on the table that we were discussing
I'll
that day
forward
too,
you
so.
what I got.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm very familiar with the program too. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the literacy one is, it's a program, it's a canned program. It works very well, and students that are identified through the AIMS screener, if you have a good AmeriCorps volunteer, they exit them before the end of the school year. And I have some that started in the fall and are exiting now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
that's good.
amazing. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, can't find the good stuff.
All right. Anything else, Board President? All right. Well, thank you for letting us have this conversation tonight. Carol, Megan, again, I think this is amazing that we have this many educators on a school board. I don't know many places that have this kind of thing. I think it, we understand the heart of the community and the district. We understand the struggles of the teachers, and we have knowledge that, when people, a lot of time people and I don't know if this is okay or not, but a lot of time people that join school boards, they're business people. And so they look at it through a business lens. And I love that we have a lot of people here that look at it through an educational lens and really see that this is about children and our future and our community. And so thank you so much for being here.
Before we adjourn, because I want to be accountable to
Mhm.
ourselves too, and we have like 3 minutes on the clock. What are our next steps so we can be accountable to ourselves in this discussion?
I think we need to bring some of these things to Dr. Anderson and
Yeah.
see, what things we could look at doing. So AmeriCorps, looking at the volunteer program that didn't make it off the ground, looking at our paraeducators, seeing how we can utilize them and see if that's possible, like what Carol was talking about.
Yeah.
And then, of course, eventually we're going to be looking at all of these things and voting as a
Yeah.
board to see if
I-
this is something we'll bring
I'd like
forward
to
for.
see if there's other resources we could bring to the table to
Mhm.
to expand it out or expand out something else or do something.
Can I make a request then in the spirit of that, and it doesn't have to be at our next one, but at a future TLE meeting, would it be possible to invite, Ms. Elliott and Mr. Stenrose to talk to us about what partnerships they already, that currently
Mhm.
exist that could potentially be like jumping off points, right, to expand that conversation and just kind of get some of their feedback as well?
Absolutely.
That,
Yeah.
Does that make,
Mhm.
and frankly, did that, anybody else, maybe even somebody like Mary Ellen Fuentes, or we have people or principals in our district who have-
Readings, our coaches,
Well, our
a
coaches,
reading coach.
but I'm thinking with that volunteer piece, like people who have run volunteer programs,
Mhm. Yeah.
iterations, whatever, could talk to us about what did it take to make those successful and how can we replicate that and help expand it?
Or reaching out to other corporations.
Right? Anyone
They have
else want
foundation.
to donate?
There's the care industry have foundation money they might help us with, or Ho-Chunk Nation. who's
Yeah,
coming
imagine like a
in,
Beloit
and
Reads, like-
Alliant
Mhm.
Energy, who just gave some money to the library. So,
Yeah.
How
Yep.
about the school district?
Right.
Just to help us get this thing off the ground. And
Mhm.
and I know some people are like, it's all good. Well, it comes from them, so we can't do it. It's like, no. Like I said, I looked really hard at other programs and other kinds of things that would be like that, similar to that, comprehensive school reform kinds of things. That one kind of bubbles to the top. I think they did their research before they
Well,
jumped on it.
yeah, on
The
our terms.
skyrocket
We
one.
should do good things on our, because they won't be good unless they're on our terms that meets our own vision, I guess, is
Right.
kind of what I'm trying to bring to the other side of that
But
conversation.
I think it meets my vision. I don't know about yours, but
Well, no,
you know, when I look at it as a principal, as a citizen, as a board member, it's like that is something that could help us create some of the cohesion that we need, help us rebuild that culture that has
Yeah.
kind of gotten eluded us. COVID didn't help us. Reconfiguration didn't help. There's a lot of things that happened in this district over the last
Mhm.
10, 15 years that have so some of the stuff that's really important maybe has slipped away from us a little bit. And
Yeah,
we need,
well, let's,
you know,
exactly, yes.
this
Mhm.
might be something that could help us put it back together. And, you know, once we get it back together, they can go away if we want them to go away or whoever. But I just, it really, you know, and like I said, I've been looking at it very, very, very deeply because I know that it's like, it's, you know, something,
Mhm.
somebody bringing to us, but it sure looks, you know, it looks really like something that would benefit the district very much, as far as I can see. And I got all my paperwork. If you want to see it, you can have it.
Well, I'd be happy to share some data. I brought my studies too, I'll spare you. It's okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Our
Is-
next meeting date will be
Oh.
that Monday before.
yes,
The 26th.
correct. Yes.
I have actually, and it's fine if you, I have a conflict. I'm on this like DPI committee that meets once a month, and it's usually not that day, but they
Mhm.
changed it to the last day
Oh,
or to the last Monday. So I think it's scheduled to go till I think 5:30. I'll double check. I'm probably just gonna bounce from it early, but in
Okay.
bouncing from that early, I might be like a few minutes. It
Okay.
just depends on the transition. So just want to give you a heads up. Definitely don't change anything. Like we have work to do, but just wanted to let you know.
all right. I was gonna look and see what things we have on the agenda for that night right now,
Oh.
so I could tell you. Oh goodness. No. There we go.
I think there'll be at least the one presentation from,
So, we have some positive news that we're going to discuss. We have the grant for the recovery school. We're going to discuss that as well. So we have two really nice things.
Wonderful.
I forget what OE stands for. OE seat
Open
allocation.
enrollment.
Oh, yep, that's right. So we'll talk about open enrollment, and then I think it would be lovely if Jeff and Rochelle were able to get that information that you were talking about earlier. If they were able to be able to share that as well.
Sure.
I think that would be lovely too. So that's what we have on
That sounds
on
great.
deck right now. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
hopefully I'll be
No,
able to
I'll-
still be part of it.
Yeah, I'll be prepared, and I might just send you a couple. This has been. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just excited. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for facilitating the space, and this has just been a wonderful way to collaborate.
I move we adjourn.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh gosh.